All right, hello everyone. This is Mr. U, and today what we will be doing is I'm going to be showing you how to create the individual position time graph and the individual velocity time graph, okay, in Google Sheets. So here are the data. I made up these data. These are made up data. All right, so you will have these data, and this is what you've got to do. You'll go to Google Sheets or Google Drive, right? And I'm at my folder, physics folder. I've got a folder for my physics stuff. And what I'll do is you'll create a new Google Sheets. Okay, so this is what it'll look like. Right? You've got, yeah, it's like a spreadsheet. Okay, and so what you'll do, well, first I've already made one. 8. Notice the name. So yours should say something like 8B, your last name, Crabwalk Graphs, all right? And what I need you to also do is here at the bottom, you can see that you have different tabs, all right? And in each of these is a different spreadsheet to work on. So I'll show you how to make these. Um, Normally what you've got here is it'll say something like at the bottom, sheet 1. Okay, so you just click on that, rename, and you're going to call it position time graph, right? So you'll name this position time graph. Okay, and you'll do 2 more of these, all right? And you'll name them like this: position time graph, individual velocity graph, group velocity histogram, because we're going to be making 3 different graphs with the data from our spreadsheets, okay? So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to put the important data that you need to create a position time graph. So if we're making a position time graph, what data do we need? Exactly, position and time. Okay, so then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the data. I'm going to get the position data. Copy, paste. Then I'm going to go and get the time data. Obviously, you're going to have to just type this in because you'll have this as a hard copy, but it's, it'll just take a little bit longer. All right? And I put in the time data. Fantastic. Now, we got to make a graph. It's really easy to make a graph. So what we do is highlight the data. You go insert, chart, and do we want a bar graph? No, we don't want a bar graph. What kind of graph do we want? We want a line graph, all right? So already I can see that there's something wrong here, right? I can see that the position is on the x-axis and the time is on the y-axis. So how can I fix this? Well, I pretty much need to switch these two, right? The x-axis is the x-axis. The y-axis is what says series, okay? So really what series should say is position, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the position data. So what range? Select range. So all I do to do this is I just go over to position and I highlight all of those. So I just highlighted all of those and I go, okay. Oh, weird. Okay, now I've got 2 graphs, 2 lines, but I guess that's okay. All right, and then what I'm going to do for the x-axis is I'm going to take this, I'm going to remove this, and I'm going to put in instead the time. Okay? Again, we have 2 graphs, but now what I can do is I can delete that series. So now we've got on the x-axis time, on the y-axis, we've got the position, right? And that's what it says, even though we see a problem that it's incorrectly named, okay? So the data are correct, right? So if I go to time 3.7, it's at 2, position 2. So that's good, right? So that's good. But we need to rename this, okay? And the way to do that is we go customize. So I'll go from there, customize. You have all these options here. All right, we want to edit the chart and axis titles. So looking at the horizontal axis title, horizontal here, I can rename it now and call it total time seconds. Great, enter. There it says it. Now I go to the vertical axis. And what is the vertical axis? Position meters. All right, great, boom. We're pros. We don't even need this. I'm gonna delete it. Delete it. Well, I'm just gonna leave it for right now. Doesn't really matter. There it is. None. Boom. So I didn't need a legend there for that. So our graph's looking really good. Maybe we want a different title. Yeah, let's call it a different title. Chart title. Okay, and let's call it individual position time crab walk. All right. Boom. Check this out. We can even put in, well, we won't worry about that right now. Okay, so we've got this. It's great. It's pretty much perfect. You can even mess with it a little bit more. If I go to series, I can go to the point size. It doesn't show the points right now, but I want it to show the points, so I'm going to put points, and now we can see all the different points, so that's great. It's done. We've made our graph. So congratulations. So now what I want to do is I want to figure out, okay, what was my velocity at point, 37 seconds? What was my velocity at 5.2 seconds, right? So this graph shows you your position as you move around crab walking. It doesn't show us what our velocity was, right? And so like if you were going to look at a car, it would you looked at like how fast you were moving, like this wouldn't be that graph. You would want to be saying, all right, so what is my velocity here? What is my velocity here? And that's what we're going to do for the next part. Okay, so in order to do that, we need to calculate the velocity at each of these points. So I'll show you how to do that. So in order to calculate velocity, we need two pieces of information, right? We need to know the time, right, and how much you change your position. Okay, so between each of these two, right, you're changing your position 2 meters, right? That's the whole point of when you were collecting data. You had to collect data every 2 meters that you traveled crab walking. Okay, so we're going to use those data, and we are going to put them here. All right, put them here. And then we also need the interval time. Okay, we also need the interval time. This is tricky, and I'll explain why. Right? So what we want to do is we want to find your velocity at each different interval, right? So to go the first 2 meters, it took 3.7 seconds. To go the next 2 meters, it took 1.5 seconds. To go the next 2 meters, it took 1.9 seconds. To go the next 2 meters, it took 3 seconds, right? And so we can calculate our velocity for each distance of those 2 meters, right? So every 2 meters, we can figure out what your average velocity is for those 2 meters, okay? And so that's what I'm going to put here. So velocity meters per second, okay? And so what we need to do is we need to take our meters, so our position, divided by our time, our interval time. So the first one is really easy, it's 0, okay? The second one, this is how we do it in using Google Sheets. It's so cool, it's going to totally blow your mind, right? You put in an equal sign, all right? And what you do is you click on the cell, right? So we're dividing position divided by time. Position divided by, so just a little slash, time. Enter, right? Boom, great, fantastic, there it is. Our velocity was 0.54 seconds, all right? And I don't want that many digits, so what I'll do is go like this. We'll just go to there, okay? Now I can do that again. Equals position divided by time. Enter. Oh man, it was a lot faster that time. We'll do 1.33. So your velocity was 1.33 meters per second for that thing. Okay? Now, ready for the extra cool trick that I'm like coolest trick of all time in Google Sheets? So if you click on this little square here, that little thing, and I drag down, see how I clicked there, not here, right? Not there. I click here on this little square and drag down. It's going to perform those operations. Oops, not like that. Perform those operations for me automatically. So check this out. Boom. So it just took, so if you look here, it just did this, right? It did it for you. How cool is that? That's pretty cool. Don't even act like you're not impressed right now. Okay? Great. Okay, so we've got our velocity now. Fantastic. We have our velocity in meters per second, and we want to be graphing our velocity time graph. This is a velocity time graph. I'm actually going to rename this velocity time graph. Okay, so now we need our time. Okay, but not our interval time. We need our overall time, right? Because we want our graph to look like this. We want these two graphs to match up somewhat. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go grab those data. I can grab them from here. Easy. Total time. Oops, I'm going to move this. Our beautiful graph that we made earlier. Why you no likey me? All right, there we go. Okay. Put this over here. Boom, velocity and time. Just like before, what we'll do, highlight all of that. Insert chart. Once again, not a column chart, right? We want a line graph. What is going on right now? This looks so crazy. It's okay. Don't worry. Look, again, what we've got, our problem is that we've got two things on the y-axis, both our velocity and our time. So what's going to go on the x-axis? Well, our time is what goes on the x-axis. Okay, so once again, I click that number. I select total time. All right, I hit OK. Right, and then I don't want total time down here. I just want velocity down here, so I remove this. Remove. Whoa, check that out. Okay, interesting. This is our time on the bottom, and it is our velocity on the side. So all I got to do, go to Customize. All right, I'm going to go to horizontal axis, so that's time in seconds, right? Okay, and then I'll put on a vertical axis, and this is our velocity in meters per second. All right, great. Our title, chart title, what are we going to call it? Individual velocity time for the Crabwalk or something like that. Okay. Boom. Customize. Again, we don't need a legend because it's like there's just one set of data, right? So I'm going to remove that. That's our graph. Now, what does this graph tell us? Why is this interesting to us? Well, it shows us that our velocity over the first part, like we're increasing in our velocity through the first period of time, right? But then all of a sudden our velocity it increases, right? And so from over the next two like over the next period of time, the next couple seconds, we increase our velocity. It goes faster, and then our velocity decreases, right? Obviously, the entire time we're still moving in the positive direction, right? Because our velocity is positive, but what's happening is that we're not going as fast, right? We're going really fast to start. We're increasing our velocity to start, and then we kind of slow down. Like this, if this were a car, it'd be like, all right, I'm going 5 meters per. I increase my speed to 5 meters per second, then I increase it to whatever, and then it decreases. All right. So now you know.